So I teach very specific information. What would be the consequence if you release these data sets? So the topic I'm going to bring you today is about the ethics in criminal justice research, especially for the data-driven study. Well, my courses, especially for two different courses, one is undergraduate and one undergraduate course. One course is, the title is Crime Prevention and Analysis, which is CG 170. Another course is the graduate level course, which is crime mapping for public safety. And for these two courses, before I was funded by Daniel Funds Ethics, I was just simply providing the data set to students, and then the students going to use those information, the data set, to analyze the crime place and play with it and just get grade and go on. That was legitimately okay before I was funded by this. But after I was funded and proposing with the proposal when I was applying for this, I was thinking more carefully about what we are, where we are in, and what we can do in terms of implementing crime data. Crime data is not a joke. Think about, you can use hypothetical crime data for the pedagogical purpose, but think of, can you create 11,000 or 110,000 millions, gazillions crime data hypothetically? It's impossible. Well, you can run Excel spreadsheet or set up R's to create some kind of random variables, but you can't create a hypothetical crime data. So what you have to do is you have to contact local police departments. Right? I contact with the CSPD. I got the data set. Starting from 2013, the first day of January until the last day of 2017. Not 2017, right? And this year, I also received 2018 crime data. So students in my course, or especially for the crime prevention and analysis course, they used the real crime data for every material in class. Every material. So it's not anymore a joke. Because CSPD, Colorado Springs Police Department, provide me the crime data based on this presumption that I'm going to use the data set only for two different purposes. First, pedagogical purpose. Second, research. So if a student wants to take the data and put it inside a flash drive and get outside and plug it into a different computer, they can be spread out to everywhere. They could do that. They could still do that in my semester, in my course, today or tomorrow. They can still do that, until they learn something about these ethics. So I teach very specific information. What would be the consequence if you release these data sets? And if you are not going to release the data, but anyways, you have to use the data set for your project, because in my course, student has to write the final report based on their analysis throughout the semester. And definitely the final product will be including the crime locations and crime maps. And it's actually exposing information to the general public. And you're going to see some of those maps today. It's going to be exposed. But how can you conceal? It's not a good term. How can you hide those critical information? Instead of providing those critical information, you could use a particular technique to hide those information, but provide a meaningful result and product to the general public about the crime patterns and the concentration of crime in small places. So this course really deals with those kind of ethical standpoint when students use the crime data, the real crime data in their study. So to begin with, it's good to show this kind of picture after you have lunch, because if I showed this picture before, you guys are pretty much mad about it. It's a sushi, exactly. The reason I placed this picture on the screen is very straightforward, because the crime data is just like the sushi. Why is it sushi? Is there anyone who wants to eat one by one of these sushi components? Well, we have three different components: topping and raw fish and rice and a base, right? Well, you can eat topping first, second raw fish, and second and third rice as a base. But you won't enjoy the full comprehensive flavor on your tongue, right? To enjoy this full sushi flavor, you have to eat at once, or just simultaneously all of these three layers together. Crime data is just like that, because crime data has multiple components combined together. For example, location. Location of crime. Well, you can provide a location of crime based on X and Y coordinate. Well, that's okay. Separate. Let's think about there's a crime happened, and the type of the crime is rape. Okay, rape was happening here, but none of the other information are provided. the solo information is not that critical. So you're going to see how crime data is similar to sushi structure and why the crime data is specifically critical in the classroom. So I would like to simplify the structure of the crime data that was provided by the CSPD. I also work with different police departments, Chicago PD, Pittsburgh PD, and Cincinnati PD. I use those crime data for research purposes. But also, if a student wants to do their analysis on different cities, like those kind of Chicago metropolitan area, then I provide the crime data. But they have to learn this first. So this is one of the simplified structure. I have more than 52 different lists of the structures included inside the crime data. I'd like to provide you with 5 different components here. The first one is definitely the X and Y coordinates. So you can see on a very small screen over here, there are 2 different dots over there. Those are the X and Y coordinate for 2 different locations of the crime. Right, 2 different locations. And these 2 different locations can also contain when the crime happened. Well, you can see, well, you won't be able to see right now, but if I read it clearly, the crime happened in 2017 May, in 2014 May, 2013 February, 2013 April. Wow, how these 2 dots can be 4 different crimes? Well, it's possible because the same place, crime happened again and again and again. So even if you look 2 crimes, when you look into the time of the crime, when the crime was reported, you're going to see multiple crimes that happened on the same location. Well, that's another component. And definitely it's a crime, so it should provide you a specific type of crime. I should make the font a little bit larger, but I'm sorry for it, but I can read it for you. DUI, legal violence, forcible rape, and offense, family offenses. So 4 different types of crimes, including DUI and rape, and some sort of family domestic crimes. Now, legal violations happen on these 2 different dots. And finally, the case number can be also provided with crime data. The case number is important. Once you know the case number, you can retrieve the specific details of the crime event by requesting to the CSPD or city government, right? That's the reason why police officers use case number, and then those case numbers sometimes go to the courtroom to be uncovered the reality and the details of the event. So this is a simplified version of 5 different components. Well, these 2 are combined together because crime types are usually provided by the crime code used in CSPD. Different police departments use different crime code. So, well, it's not as sexy, right? It's just that 4 or 5 different types of components are showing on the screen. So it's not look better, it's not look good. It doesn't provide you any specific information about the reality of the crime. How about this? Once you add a map, it became different, right? This property, I don't want to say this is a house, but if this is a house, this house contains 4 different crimes within the last 5 years. If you are the owner of that property, how would you feel? You're about to sell your house next year. And you have these information exposed by one of our UCCS students. How would you feel? I feel terrible. And maybe I'm going to find out the professor who taught this course and ask him, why did you do that? Right? That's something reasonable. And then the professor can modify the class if he never talks about the ethics in the classroom. So once you add 1 more layer, the map image, you can see that. Do you know what this place is?
Is it campus?
It's a UCCS. Oh. Right? It's not feeling good right now, right? So is it a good idea to expose the real locations of a crime to the general public? It's definitely not.
Well, it might be if you're the next door neighbor. I want to know.
Of course. Yeah, so you have to come to this kind of session to listen to some sort of analysis to see what's happening to next door to your house. But
and some of it is that certain people in the community feel they have a right to know. Well,
Well-
obligation to report, but we have an obligation to report crimes on the campus here.
There is a wonderful site which is called LexisNexis Community Crime Map. Once you search Google is about it provides you everything. You can probably see the types of crime, but the address and all of those are, purged. But here, once you have the image file with all of those types of crimes specifically, a student can see the real crime data, the street address, street number, unit number, the types of crime, who was the victim, who was the offender. Those all information are provided in the classroom. It's a very, very critical information, right? So in the classroom, usually I actually, make some kind of X on the name of the victims and offender because it's not allowed to provide those information to a student, even if it's classroom format. So the message I would like to provide you here in terms of ethical standpoint is you can actually tell someone else's house is either in crime problem or not if you have the crime data on your hand. A student can tell such a thing like that. Well, I usually use this kind of crime data to purchase my property, right? You can actually look for the variety of different distributions of a crime event inside of Colorado Springs and pick up one of the best places where a crime never happened. Then I picked up the place and it was under construction area. That's why it was nothing happening. So it can be biased, right? But that's not the point. The point is the crime data provides a very critical information once it is combined up together with other components and layers. That's a key point. So the ethical problem that arises from this material is it uncovers the private and proprietary information to the general public. That's one single ethical standpoint that arises from this picture. Let's make this problem more serious. It was just a one property, the ACAP building, Academic Office Building in the UCCS. This is all crime events that occurred within the last 5 years in Colorado Springs, especially around, this is our university, so if that was good, you'll see a very clear picture. I can provide a slide for you if you need it. So. Is it violation to ethics? No. So these are all crime events. So you can see that probably University of Colorado, Colorado Springs on this different color block. Well, in addition to the uncovering and releasing the proprietary information and private information to the general public, once you have multiple dots, and once a student has this kind of picture on their hand, because they're running different software packages to run these kind of analysis, and once it's combined with a different layer, like a poverty household population, well, you can see probably the red block ones are the high density area for the poverty households. So a student can easily say that the poverty is causing a huge amount of crime on the right down corner of this community. Once it is combined with unemployment, we can also say that these unemployed areas are providing some crime opportunity. At education level. Education level is usually provided by the federal government's website, which is the census tract data. And you can actually count the number of the population below the high school degree and create some kind of density map. And then you can see that pretty much low educated areas are showing high spatial correlation with criminogenic issues. The last one is single mother. We have a lot of single mothers living in Colorado Springs. And well, it's a single mother area here, which is relatively red. It doesn't actually show any spatial correlation, but you don't know, because only one single dot doesn't represent one crime, right? And here, where's the other red ones? I can't see that much based on this picture, but other areas that is highly connected with the red wall area of the single mom population also shows the spatial correlation with the criminogenic issues in this city. What is the problem here? I made the spatial correlation between 4 different factors, socio-demographic factors, which is poverty, unemployment, education level, and single mother population with a crime location. Is this analysis, this conclusion can be true? My answer is it's not, because you are using a biased information. As I told you before, not one single dot will represent only one single crime. Even if it's one single dot, it could be 52, 67, maybe 100 crimes happen in the same location within the last 5 years. That's what's happening here. So if students are going to use the raw crime location data, their conclusion related to other social, demographic, and economic factors can be biased. And if they're going to write a paper, and if they're going to use that information for personal blogging, that will impact our community unethically. The student has to learn how to deal with those kind of issues, that crime could happen at the same location continuously, which is caused as concentration of crime at places. I'm now going to provide you another layer today, which should contain the racial composition of the blogs, which is very serious. And even if this is the faculty or staff or someone who's interested in ethical standpoint comes into this room to listen to my presentation today, but it's not sometimes allowed, and sometimes I feel very uncomfortable to provide racial composition of the blogs based on across different ethnic groups. So students but sometimes use those information in their analysis. So if they release that information, race is not a small issue. In criminology and criminal justice field, we have an area which is called the biosocial criminology. They never say they are racial criminology. But once you go to the panel, you can see all of the factors are related to race and biological factors and DNAs. And they're not going to say their section or their thematic section is racial criminology. They call it biosocial criminology, right? They alleviate the term. But students really see what's happening inside our community in terms of the composition of the race, and that could have a spatial correlation with crime. Well, to make an easy conclusion, we never find in Colorado Springs regarding the racial correlation with this crime event. So that's a good part. So these are the ethical problems that could arise in the classroom format, because they're using the raw crime data and without using any specific technique to conceal the reality, real distributions of crime event on the location, then their result will be pretty much biased, or sometimes if their results can be publicized to the general public, it will be more problematic, and it will demolish our reputation of the UCCS. So I want to provide you one of the many solutions here. So again, this is all of the crime locations in Colorado Springs. And students, first time we're going to see this picture and use this data set to do the crime analysis. But they use the density function. Use the density function to see which place crime is highly concentrated relative to other places. In criminology, the term that describes that kind of perspective and phenomena is called the crime hotspot. You may have heard about it from Times or New York Times. And these are the crime hotspot. Well, sometimes it actually violates your understanding about the crime location, because it looks like only one single dot is pinpointed as crime hotspot. Yes, that's true. I cannot open it here because my software package is not on this Dr. KU's computer. But once you click that dot, you'll see 125 crimes are happening in the same location. Just like a Walmart contains tons of crime everywhere, right? So after they draw the density map, students draw the density map, they take out every crime event. So it won't provide a proprietary information to the general public, but also it won't provide any sort of biased conclusion with other factors. This is ethically really important because if they're going to use raw data, all of those biased perspectives as well as proprietary information will be uncovered to the general public, and then I cannot control the consequences. Once data is released to the general public as a raw face, you don't have any control on it. You can't control. Think about students that are showing this map on their Facebook or Instagram, because they just draw this one at the second day of the class, and they feel like it's cool because I did this one. It's cool stuff, right? And I told my students that you have to learn something before you post something on Instagram. I allow them to post something on Instagram, but not on the second day of the class. After seventh week of the class, then I allow them to post something. But they won't going to post this because they learn these kind of perspective throughout the first week to the seventh week. students are interested in the overall perspective of the prime locations, the density of the prime inside of Colorado Springs. Well, you can provide these kind of map to the general public because we have the right to know. But we don't have the right to know someone else's house has been victimized tons of time, right? Again, think about your house is going to be provided here, and your house experienced more than 50 crime in the last 5 years. Who's going to purchase your house, right? It's going to demolish the property's value, but also the HOA doesn't like it. It actually causes a lot of problems. A student can post this picture in their Facebook, and I did it when I was a master's student. Well, again, if you post this way, well, it doesn't actually have any impact, but it actually degrades the quality of our city too. Students learn my course, the crime prevention analysis, but also the graduate course, which is the crime mapping for the public safety, to get a job in the good public sectors. For example, Colorado Springs city government recruiting our graduate students and undergraduate students once they graduate. And then if they have this kind of skills to pinpoint the location of the crime, then they're going to be easily hired by those local government. But if you're going to post this kind of slide or post this kind of pictures on Instagram, and there's kind of background check issues nowadays, and they won't going to hire a student because they posted something that degrades the quality of the life of Colorado Springs. So it's not a good idea to post a real prime location to the general public. So this is one of the examples I actually pulled out from one of my best students' paper. Every student has to write a paper as a group work. They can group up to 4 members. And this group was the combination between Juliet Bryant and Cassandra Cream. I actually had permission to use this paragraph for my students. And actually, in the beginning of the class, I usually talk to my student this way. If you did a fantastic job, I'm going to present your material in any kind of the university level event, and I'm going to send you an email if I'm going to do that. And I send an email, I've done allowance. So we can see that it should be a blue colored one. If any crime represented or victim information was reported in the wrong manner, some agency will most likely be held reliable. Well, let's a little bit expand our brain to understand about the overall context. What would happen if the crime data is released to the general public? There is a bar in the downtown, and that bar should contain multiple numbers of crime across different years, right? And that information, let's assume that information was released to the general public, was released to Instagram. And how does the student going to feel? Oh, that bar is this shabby bar, we should not go there. And they're going to go for a different place. We're hurting the local business, right? So someone who posts that kind of raw information to the general public doesn't think that kind of consequence could happen. It's not only an ethical problem, it's a problem related to more serious consequences. And this student already understands what would happen if we released crime data in its raw face. Another paragraph I like from this final report is the purpose of the applying ethics when interpreting the data being used was strictly for the visualization aspect. So they use a specific technique which is called the kernel density estimation, sometimes kernel density smoothing method, to show the crime patterns inside a community and a neighborhood and a citywide. They do not use the raw crime location exposed to the public. So it's only for the visualization to understand about the crime patterns inside the community and the city and the neighborhood. So when interpreting the data being used was strictly for visualization of the project. So this is more important. Also, without releasing any personal information of victims. Well, these students analyzed the crime patterns of a sexual assault. So sexual assault crime usually contains the victim's age, gender. Well, males can be also victimized by a sexual assault too, and also where it happened, when it happened, and whether it was arrested. Those all information are included. But after after they use a density map, density technique, and conceal and cover all of those proprietary and approach information, that information won't be provided to the general public, even if students know it's there. It's very important because in the classroom, I usually taught my student in this way. If you are working for a private company, and if someday your boss will ask you to create a wonderful crime pattern map that shows us the issues that our city is currently suffering from. What am I doing? You can provide raw crime data, but that's not a good thing, ethically and businessly, right? So a student has to learn what kind of different techniques could be used to conceal those in the raw face of the crime data, but then provide more analytic perspective, analytic visualization to the general public, so that general public can understand we have these problems across these areas, but they don't know which neighborhood, which household, which property area, property location has that kind of criminogenic issues. So after that, this picture has been adapted from another student's project. So they are interested in homicide cases. Well, the dogs are not the homicide, don't worry about it. So these dogs are not representing any kind of homicide locations. These blocks are the influenced area where the homicide happened. So they assume that around 15,000 feet on a radius, the homicide happened here, that around the area, surrounding area or adjacent area will be influenced by the spillover effect of the homicide. That was their assumption. Well, I respect their assumption, so just leave it as it is. And then what they're interested in here was they're going to looking for the spatial correlation between the religious worship place and homicide hotspots. So they can do this kind of analysis because they're not going to provide actual location where the homicide was happened, but they also provide some sort of influential area by the previous homicide cases that shows some spatial correlation with the worship places. Well, I don't see any kind of ethical problem here, but maybe the religious problem going on, right? Because it seems like the Baptist Church and the Catholics are having some more homicide cases relative to other worship places. So it's a religious problem, but none of the ethical problems going on here. And these students also did the same analysis for the vandalism hotspots with the other 4 different types of the worship places, and the same conclusion was arised. Well, I gave the students, there were four different students combined together as a team, but I only gave B+ because they concluded that the Catholic and Baptist Church are causing some vandalism homicide hotspots. That's not true. It's a different topic, but it's different year. But I have to give you why that happened here, because relative to other worship places, more population groups are going to the Catholics and Baptist Church, and that kind of the aggregation of the higher population group or higher group aggregation will increase the opportunity between offender and victim could converge at the same time and place. That will increase their likelihood of crime. That's why these areas are suffering from high crime issues in terms of homicide and vandalism. The student made the wrong conclusion. It's okay. It's not an ethical violation. So anyways, it's interesting. And they can do this kind of analysis because they're not going to use the raw face of the crime data. And I think this is really important. Once you search any sort of crime map in Google, you're going to see some sort of the crime location maps. And sometimes you can zoom in with a higher resolution. That's okay, that's fine. The problem is, again, here, it'll hurt the personal property area, but also demolish the reputation of the community and the neighborhood. The student never thought about it before they learned about this. I redeveloped my course in terms of these kind of ethical standpoint embedded inside. So a student who took my course can do a better job in terms of crime mapping, considering all of the ethical standpoints. And there's another reason why this is very important. To brag myself here, I'm one of the winners of the Crime Forecasting Challenge, supported by the National Institute of Justice. And there was many different competitors coming in. And then I was just one of those, okay? One of those. And there are other winners of the national competition. And their model is now currently used by the LAPD. And the LAPD has been recently accused from the citizens due to the racial disparity. Because their prediction algorithm uses these components. What are those? People's criminal history, age, gang affiliation, your private information, what's your income level, where did you live before, and where you came from. Something those kind of private information. Race, gender. Let's make this story a little bit more realistic. You open up your eye in the morning and you saw a police officer's car, patrol cars in front of your house. They're gonna stay there for 24/7. What do you feel? How do you feel about it? Maybe you can approach to him and say, no, why are you staying here? In front of my property. And the police officer is going to say to you like, well, my department's a practical, predictive policing system tell us we have to patrol here and stay here for 24/7 because something's going to happen very soon on your location, on your property. And usually that issue was happened at the location where racially very diverse area, but also a very poor area in LA. And citizens raised questions to the local government and accused the police department. So they're under some sort of lawsuit right now. And I hope the crime analyst working for the LAPD should have taken my class before. I did not use, even though I'm the winner, one of the winners of the national competition for the crime place forecasting, my forecasting algorithm predicted 93% places in the following week. And their prediction is 95%, 2% difference. But I do not use this, that. I only use previous crime information only. Because I would understand that an ethical problem could arise when you use this. Even if you can increase the reliability and the predictability of your algorithm, we have to think about the ethical standpoint too. And my hunch is, after 5 to 6 years later, I believe some of my students will work for local police department as a crime analyst, or maybe in a different state. Now they know what is the ethical standpoint, how it is important, how it could hurt our community and neighborhood if they do not use specific techniques. So this is one of the, because the brightness is so high, so you cannot read all of those. But this is one of the practical, and this is my friend who is the director of the practical professor in UCLA. He's not accused, but LAPD is accused. His name is Jeff Brantingham. But anyways, this article was adapted from policeone.com, one of the most famous magazines in policing. And it actually shows you the fact that the LAPD has been accused due to the racial disparity. So again, I hope my students do a better job in ethics if they took my course. And I'm really happy to be funded by the Daniel Gun Ethics Initiative, and I have this opportunity to redevelop my course, including all of these important points to my students. Thank you so much.